The organizers, Migrantes Unidos is a community group formed in London, gathering people of Portuguese origin seeking to intervene in issues of interest to migrant communities. The problem with issues that affect migrants is that they are often invisible, as we are caught between constituencies and multiple forms or lack of political representation. But the topic we are discussing here today is a matter of concern, but also for hope, as it is as an example of a problem that by becoming visible becomes also available to be addressed and solved. So we are really pleased with the interest that this initiative has generated and with the response given by those who accepted our invitation, and especially with the support and collaboration from Lambeth Council and the Portuguese Consulate in London. We have here today high officials and executives of the Lambeth Local Authority, the Consulate of Portugal in London, and we are also very encouraged by the presence of experienced and young teachers, former Portuguese pupils in London, and specialists who have researched the issues related to the achievement of Portuguese-speaking children in Lambeth, and many others from whom we will be hearing in the second part of this discussion. The advantage of having a long and boring title that, like we have today, instead of a short and catchy one, is that we know that everyone here is genuinely interested in the topic. And the reason why we wrote it as with a question mark at the end is that we think the problem of the underachievement of Portuguese children in Lambeth raises questions to everyone. And the spirit of this event is exactly to try to work on those questions together by sharing experience, knowledge, and ideas. We are especially interested in evidence of the underachievement of Portuguese children in Lambeth by those who have researched and experienced it, and in examples of good practice that address successfully the problem, which we know of in part through that research and those initiatives. We are also interested in all those who have energy to create participative forms of addressing the problem, in particular involving parents, communities, and the children themselves. Our title is a question, but there are many questions within it. So the first one is the question, the word why. So when we ask why do Portuguese children achieve in Lambeth in relation to other groups, the first reaction sometimes is what is the cause, who is responsible, who is to blame? And this can make parents, teachers, political officials, members of the community, even nationals who hear this, about this, defensive, right? The people who could be part of the solution become defensive. So I think it is more interesting to think about how it happens, this problem, know more about the problem, know about how it has been addressed, and think about understanding it in order to find ways to solve it rather than pointing like responsible or blaming the different groups. The second part of the question is, who are these Portuguese children? For us, this is something that we're kind of still trying to figure out, right? Are we talking about children born in Portugal, children of Portuguese families, Portuguese-speaking children? We know that there are, we read that there are about 30,000 Portuguese people in Lambeth, in the London borough of Lambeth, and figures of 60,000 in London. These figures are obviously very, very kind of uncertain, but it's at times unclear who is included in this number. So this is something that I think we hope we can clarify a bit today. The third question is this only happening in Lambeth? It has become visible in Lambeth because of these studies, but the category Portuguese children is not used in studies elsewhere. So I wonder what happens if this is just revealing something that actually is a problem elsewhere in other places of London and the UK. So, so today we have, to help us understand this problem, we have Feyisa Demie, who is Honorary Professor of Education at Durham and Head of Education Research at Lambeth, and is responsible for a series of comprehensive and in-depth studies of inclusion in education, amongst which is the reports of the underachievement of Portuguese children in Lambeth, which brought this topic into our attention. And we are extremely honored to have them here today. We have teachers from from Wyvil School and Stockwell School, who are some of the schools with the highest number of Portuguese children studying in the borough. And we have also former students who will help us understand this issue. And as I said before, we want to hear as many people as possible. So let me just quickly share some of the instructions about how to participate in this Zoom meeting. I've said about keeping the microphones disconnected when someone else is speaking. If you want to speak, raise your hand, please. There's a button with a hand up, which you can find depending on your computer, you can find in different places. It might be in the list of participants next to your name. It might be where they have 3 points. So if you're on a computer, just hover the mouse. And if you are on on a telephone, just you might need to click the screen to see that. So when it comes to the quick Q&A, I'll ask you to raise your hand. Maybe you can actually try that now, and everyone sort of try to raise their hands to see if you can find it. And then you can lower your hands afterwards. Thank you very much. If you have any difficulty, please use the chat function, which has the speech bubble sign on, to ask for help. You can also use it to comment. You can message the whole group, or you can message people individually by clicking on the name if you want to kind of get in touch with someone, or you can message for any technical issues the team of moderators, which is me, Sandra Guerreiro, and Luís Moreira. You can find those in the list of participants. But I encourage you to message everyone if you want to participate in the discussion. And please be aware that this meeting is public and will be recorded and streamed live in our Facebook page, where people can also ask questions. So if you are watching this through the streaming, please ask your questions in the comments. And if you have any questions, again, please send them to Sandra, Luísa, or myself. So after the introduction, we will start with short interventions from our guests. Please write your comments when they speak. And after they've spoken, we open up interventions from the audience. When Feyisa Demie speaks, there will also be a period for Q&A after he speaks when he presents the research. So we'll start with the introductions from the Consul-General of Portugal in London, Cristina Pucarinho, who I call now to speak, and who I thank very much for supporting and collaborating in the organization of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco, for giving me the floor. And of course, I would like to start by thanking Migrantes Unidos for this very thoughtful initiative of organizing this meeting, as well as the sponsors, the speakers, and all the other participants. I'm myself very pleased to take part, and I very much welcome the participation also that will join us later during the event of the leader of the Council of Lambeth. His participation in itself, as well as of other council members, express clearly their interest and commitment to address the issue of the academic performance of the Portuguese students in Lambeth. The topic that we'll be addressing today truly deserves our attention, not only for the Portuguese students themselves, but for their families, for the society they live in. Education, we all know, is a human right, is the main pillar of every society that wishes to invest in its own development. And it is also a very powerful driving force for political, social, economic changes, and certainly all for the better. So these changes are primarily for the students themselves, as responsible and skilled individuals equipped to access more and better opportunities. But education is also a very crucial tool, I would say. They need to be more successful, but also to contribute to the development of the community and of the society. This is why education is internationally acknowledged as the central element of any kind of sustainable development strategy. And this is anywhere in the world. And states are under the obligation of ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education. And I stress again, quality education, and promote lifelong learning for all, leaving, as we all know, no one behind. We understand that the issue at stake here today is one that requires a comprehensive approach and ideally an integrated partnership amongst institutional powers, schools, teachers, communities, parents, tutors, and the students themselves. And all together, should be able to create an enabling educational environment for youth to engage, to prosper, to create and fulfill their huge potential. And students must be always on board as part of the solution to the challenges, they are facing themselves, and never as a part of the problem. Their energy, their creativity, and critical spirit can certainly contribute to identify and eventually shape innovative solutions for what we are discussing here today. This is a message that Portugal conveys in every international forum. And this is also, the way we are very determined to implement in our own country. And Portuguese students in Lambeth should be able to enjoy fully the existing good education opportunities they are offered here and build for themselves a successful future. I will, of course, leave the discussion on a topic to be deepened by those with great knowledge and understanding of the issue will speak after me. I will just stress that Mrs. Regina Duarte is the coordinator of Portuguese language teaching in the UK, may also wish later today to share with us her expertise and long-standing experience in dealing with institutional powers, schools, teachers, and the Portuguese students themselves, both in Portugal and yet also in the UK. And just to conclude, and I was told I have to be very brief, I will just say that it is actually not what we say, but what we do that can make the difference, leading to the change the participants in this meeting are all aiming for. So in this sense, I hope this event will lead to resolutions with a positive impact in the future of Portuguese students in Lambeth. And myself, of course, and the representatives of Portugal here in the UK are more than willing to take part in these efforts. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Cristina. It's an honor to have you here opening this session. And thank you very much for keeping within the time. We want to hear from as many people as we want to. Thank you very much. And thanks for introducing Regina Duarte from the Instituto Camões. It will be great to hear from her later. So I'll pass to Jack Hopkins, who is the leader of the Lambeth Council. And we are also very, very honored to have him here, sort of opening this event. And over to you, Jack. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Prazer, Cristina and friends. I think why I'm here is because I'm interested in, for the same reason everyone else is, how do we make sure that all young people in Lambeth are doing really well? And specifically, I think, Francisco, what you said, which is how do we shine a light on things? All of us have our own understandings or our own suspicions or our own kind of ideas of why things might not be working as well as possible. And unless we get some evidence, unless we try and find out what's happening, then we'll never find out why is it happening and what can we do to solve it. So I'm really pleased to see so many friends, so many community activists, teachers, people who I know, and I think that shows the commitment that the council and me and my other Labour colleagues, I've got Ed here as well, who's the cabinet member for Children and Young People. Our commitment is strong and deep and goes back a long way. And in fact, one of the participants, João de Silva, we used to work together 20 years ago, so, which is really strange. And thinking back, he was probably the first Portuguese person I know in England. So this is really nice to see him. I think we have to shine a light on it, and then we have to understand why. And there's all sorts of reasons why. And why the only way that we're going to solve some of these challenges and improve the outcomes for Portuguese young people is going to be to have dialogue and to have a partnership approach. As a parent, I've got a 10-year-old, and certainly the importance of teachers was really highlighted during COVID and lockdown. Homeschooling was really, really difficult. And it kind of really showed to me the importance of parents in this, and parents' education doesn't just happen in schools, it happens outside of schools, in our youth clubs, out in the community. It's really important for parents to be able to engage. And, you know, if you're not very good at maths, or if your English is not so good, then it's really, really hard to help your kids to excel and to achieve. So I think there's going to be loads and loads of things that we can learn together. I'm really interested. I want to thank Feyisa for coming on a Sunday. Let it not be said that the council doesn't work 7 days a week. We do. We work tirelessly for our residents. But I think it's a really, really important and interesting piece of work, and I'm really looking forward to what we're going to do together. I think what's interesting that you said, Francisco, is the question of why Portuguese kids not doing as well in Lambeth. All of our schools in Lambeth are good or outstanding, but the fact that we're doing this shows that we know that we've got a challenge, and that we know that there's inequality between different groups of young people. So finding out what those specifics are and how we can do to solve them has got to be the way forward. But I'm really confident that together we're going to do that, and I look forward to the dialogue and the conversation, to the challenge, and I'll do whatever I can and work with whoever wants to work with us in order to make sure that these problems can get sorted and that we're achieving. I think there's also something really important at the moment around how do we have a united community. And a borough like Lambeth, we're really proud of the fact that we have so many different nationalities and backgrounds and histories. But if we don't understand all of those histories, then we can't embrace them and we can't celebrate them. So there's also something for me here around how do we celebrate Portuguese in the broadest sense, Portuguese culture, whether you're Angolan or Mozambican or Brazilian or from wherever. And how do we then make sure that everyone else understands this too? And most importantly, when we get really good footballers like Brandon Oliveira, who plays for Crystal Palace, who's decided to choose the Portuguese youth team rather than the English youth team, then we've got some challenges. But at least we're creating lots of champions, and I see lots of people around the room here who are going to be mentors, who are going to be able to go out and meet schools and show young people that there's a way forward, whether they want to be a doctor, whether they want to be a politician, whether they want to be whatever they want to be, because that's what it's going to take. We know that young people's success is built on how strong the community is. So thank you everyone for being here, and I listen to everything that's going to happen.
Thank you very much, Ek. That's really great. And I guess there are other people from the council here, so in the discussion we'll be maybe able to hear from them about initiatives that are going on from the council to address this problem. Thank you very much. So let's start with let's move on to Feyisa Demie, Professor Feyisa Demie, who is an honorary professor at Durham University and head of research at Lambeth Council in education, and who has been studying this problem for a long time. And we're really looking forward to hearing from him. We'll have, his presentation is around 25 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A specifically for his presentation before we move on to Wyvil School Leadership Team. And Luísa Ribeiro as well is going to speak, I forgot to mention, who is a teacher and who has been working with this problem with Portuguese kids in Lambeth for a long time. So over to you, Feyisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you really very much for really inviting me. And firstly, I really want to congratulate Lambeth Council for a long time for monitoring Portuguese achievement or many other group before I really say something. I'm really pleased to address the Portuguese community today. I have worked with Portuguese and BME people in Lambeth over a long time. It's a real pleasure to talk to you about some of the latest research I've been doing in school on Portuguese in Lambeth. I have to be really very careful with the word I use. Portuguese means for me Portuguese language speakers. I would be happy to respond why that's the case during question and answer time in terms of really the data we have. I've also carried many research, not only in Portuguese, but in raising achievement of Black Caribbean, Black African, Somali, white working class, Portuguese, EL, and Spanish speaker. My research on Black Caribbean actually convinces the Labour government at the time to invest a lot of money into it and to really to narrow a gap from 29% in short period of time by 2011 really to 7%. So I really been monitoring, doing many of those research, including white working class. Please note, I'm a critical friend of the school. I'm not interested in the deficit model of argument on underachievement or any league table publication to compare school to show winner and losers. That's what is going on in England at the moment. The English grades follow a wrong market-oriented school competitive agenda, which I strongly believe is really wrong. My focus has always been, since 1997, is really to do what can be done to improve in a school by providing them good practice research evidence. We need to be cautious on anyone who uses statements such as the worst performance in education or use league table to compare a school. In my view, it is good to focus on positive messages what the school can do to improve in a school. This helps really school improvement. I've really done a good practice research in 2008 on Portuguese or raising achievement, which one of the schools which actually speaking today have really participated when they have really made a significant improvement in short period of time. My research mission has been to make research more accessible to teachers and governors through what work research evidence to help them to improve. I've been working in the field over 25 years. I was collecting, analyzing assessment data to support the school in raising achievement by providing them what I call school profile, contextual report to monitor BME attainment and progress to school on confidential basis. The school also used this data as evidence for self-evaluation. It is only Lambeth over the last 25 years. The schools are receiving on confidential basis that information where it really helps them to challenge themselves at the same time to improve. The title of my presentation today is Educational Attainment Portuguese Children in Lambeth School. I use the word successes and challenges. We have successes, I have to say, and we also have a challenge. I would therefore argue, despite the challenge with English proficiency, Portuguese-speaking people made a significant progress in Lambeth School from the day I know. Fluency in English is vital in England. Portuguese children can fly once they are fluent in English. That is what my good practice research in earlier days have really demonstrated. The session which I'm really running today, therefore, it will answer a number of questions for you. What is the empirical evidence about the achievement of Portuguese people? What are the factors affecting Portuguese achievement? What does it tell us about the role of school in closing achievement gap? I'll then make a conclusion and policy implication for government. Government has the money to tackle this issue. I mean, a local authority have very limited amount of money, really. If you really look at the map there, Portuguese speakers are all over the world. So I'm not actually really covering all of this. I'm using the word Portuguese speaker in whatever I do. At the end, I'm really happy to take questions and really on for discussion. What is the source of my evidence? My evidence is actually a well-targeted data collection in terms of Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 GCSE data. We started recognizing with the Lambeth Council Portuguese as an ethnic group and as a language group in 1997, which is officially have been debated with the council at the time, and which I really presented a paper, the reason why Portuguese should be recognized as an ethnic group. At that time, the debate was Portuguese are European, it's better to really consider them as an European. My argument was we need to recognize them as a group in England and in Lambeth, which it did. The measure of performance I'm using is in terms of Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 is year 3 and 4 to 6 performance. In terms of 5 GCSE, 5A to C, including English months until recently, until 2006, in the later period, the whole thing have really changed to 4 and 9. That as a sort of really performance indicator are really used to demonstrate. In addition, I'm one of those people who managed to access the national data, language data call, where Portuguese are being recorded, where really in 2017, 80 managed to do analysis performance of West European, East European children in English schools. So I do have some element of national data also, although the government does not recognize Portuguese as an ethnic group yet. Let's go to the context of Lambeth, really important to recognize. Lambeth is really an inclusive local authority with diverse group. 85% of people are from Black ethnic minority. The January 2019 data actually indicate we nearly have around 38,000 people in Lambeth school. The African population is really one of the highest, 23%, white British about 15%, and Black Caribbean about 13%, white other is about 11%, mixed other is 6.8%, and Portuguese speaker, I'll use the word Portuguese speaker, is about 7%. In 2000, particularly, I really want to give one of the statistics I have. In earlier days, we started monitoring in 1992. The Portuguese speaker at that time were 377. Can you really see in this graph how they've grown up in Lambeth? I have to also really remind you here, there are a number of estimates about Portuguese population. When I did earlier days, I estimated around 3,000. Portuguese government actually are pointing out around about 14,000 in terms of really population. And nationally, there will be about 30,000 in terms of really population. So there are many of them in London, and certainly most of the people who really settled in London are initial stages from Madeira, and certainly that's the case also in Stockholm area in early stage. Portuguese speakers are from many parts of the world, including Brazil, Mozambique, Angola, East Timor, Equatorial Guinea, and all these are, if they are in Lambeth school, they are considered as Portuguese speakers, depending if they have actually saying, I am a Portuguese speaker in addition of their own languages at all. The first question I would like to raise is, therefore, is do we have Portuguese achievement concern in Lambeth or really in English school? I would really start with the national evidences. That's really very important, and nobody actually talk about it. National data on education performance of Portuguese people is not available because official statistics do not differentiate between different European groups. They consider them all as white British, although within my research, I really started differentiating them. Data collected by Institute of Public Policy from local authorities in England, sometimes I think around 2010, actually suggests, again, Portuguese children are really underachieving. About 46% compared to the national average of really 47%. But Lambeth local authority has started to collect data Portuguese speakers since 1997 to monitor Portuguese speaker pupil performance in detail. And also, as a researcher myself, I start accessing the National Pupil Database information on language diversity in England, which you may find on website. Some of the publications I have done and really published in this area where Portuguese are also mentioned. The analysis of language diversity data for white other ethnic group in England, which is indicate Portuguese people are the lowest attending group. I use the word lowest rather than the lowest performing group to national average of white or white other Black African or really Indian or really other main ethnic group. This is the national data which you could see by languages. When you see, you can look the Europe map there, Portugal here. And if you look at the West European evidences, people who are really in English school from Denmark, French, Dutch, sorry. Sorry, I think I have to really show with different slide, which is can really better see now. If you look at this graph up there, the Danish are one of high performing group really in English school. The fact is the reason why they are performing, they are really fluent in English. The French mainly live in Kingston and Chelsea, I think. And mainly I send some of their children to private school, as far as I know. They are one of the high achieving schools with private school institutions where we do have some evidence in the area. The Dutch, the Swedes, the Serbian, all these are really achieve above national average of white British, which is about 57%, where the Portuguese, if you could look at in terms of nationally, achieve about 42% achievement in terms of GCSE, which I would say 5A to C, including English math. There are a number of them below Portuguese. If you look at Hungarian, Lithuanian, Latvian, Slovak, and Czech, a group which are really underachieving English education system. But what is very interesting is in children who came from the country where they learn English as a second language and fully fluent, they're really doing very well in English education system. I'm now moving into Lambeth and to show what achievement for Lambeth is. As I have really monitored them over a really long period of time, if you really look at, although the type of the exam we have really changed over a really period of time, there is, you can see from the evidence here, in terms of Key Stage 1, comparing to 2000 and 2019, the Portuguese have actually made really good improvement. what it tells me is Lambeth School are supporting them well in terms of attaining the level of fluency in English. And in addition of other really targeted support, you can see there. And the same is true, you could say, in terms of Key Stage 2, compare many other ethnic groups. And the same is true with GCSE. Over a period of time between 2000, they have really made really good improvement. What is very interesting is when I did a case study research in Lambeth, some of the schools of the case study I have done have improved from 43 level 4 and above in 2000, and when they did it in 2008, really by 60% real improvement. You could really read those one in the report I have done really long time ago. So it's not doom and gloom, really, Lambeth. If you see here, there are elements of improvement, although we still have a challenge. Portuguese are achieving below some group. What is very interesting with my research on Spanish speaker recently is actually the underachieving group in Lambeth are the Spanish speaker and not really Portuguese people. So we need to be really careful when you actually use the data and really interpret. For me, what is very interesting is Lambeth School actually progressing Portuguese children. And that is what I've really said, really, in terms of initially description of the table, really. The trend data show Portuguese speakers have made better improvement between 2000 and 2019 than any other ethnic group. In my view, we need to continue celebrating. And we used to celebrate that sort of thing. I'll say later what we call it Think Portuguese initiative program, which you had in Lambeth some time ago. I'm now moving, what is the barrier of achievement in a school? It's really important. It also affects Portuguese children. First thing is we need to look at an issue of poverty. Poverty is a challenge. Can you see in this graph? I really did a survey of 90 Lambeth teachers. They top up poverty and disadvantage in the community as one of the really main reasons at the top. Parental negative attitude to some education, particularly element of white working class, lack of parental involvement, lack of targeted support. When there is no targeted support in the school, we do have problems. The issue is, since 2010, we don't have enough money to do targeted support. We used to have 210 million annually IMAC money to employ and to support children with targeted support and intervention, which we have actually employed advisory teacher as part of that exercise. That money has been really stopped in 2010 by Mr. Gove, who fragmented the education system and really disappeared in the later period. This underachievement Portuguese people is perpetuated also by factors such as language barrier, economic deprivation, disruptive pre-education. I think they have to move from one place to another. Parental lack of understanding of the British education system is one of the problems. Lambeth, I can tell you statistically how language barrier affects. 89% of the people, particularly at key stages, are not fluent English. They really need support. So there is a challenge for Lambeth School. They really need money actually to support them. There is no longer money we used to have where we really have been investing in targeting intervention. So you can really see the element of the problem there in terms of fluency in English at different key stages. Poverty is also a factor, you know, compared to really national average with the Portuguese community. Also, Portuguese community work, there are a significant number of them on free school meals. Lack of knowledge of English education system is a big issue. Some people have little or no educational experience before arriving in UK, which actually means is mobility actually affects the performance of really the people. You could really see how disadvantage factor really affect between those who are on free school meals by ethnic background or different ethnic group and performance. Actually, when I look at the statistic, it significantly affects white British than ethnic minority. The gap with white British are so big when you compare free school meals and non-free school meal people. The next stage is really important for me to talk about language barrier. Many Portuguese children are beginner in English when they, 89% not fluent in English. They mainly come some from rural area. That apply Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and GCSE. The result, if you really look at here, are those who are not fluent in English, new to English, none of them achieve Key Stage 2. And if you look at Stage B, early acquisition, about 13% of them, about 8% of them really achieved in terms of Key Stage 2, and none of them achieved a GCSE, both at Stage A and Stage B. And Stage C would develop competency 45 and really 30% in terms of GCSE. If you look at those not fluent in English, which is A to D, is only about 9% really in terms of Key Stage 2 and 38%. What is very interesting is once their English improve, they do better than any other group, Portuguese children. You could really see this graph, which can tell you exactly how this performance, with the level of fluency improving and achievement also improve. Those who are really fluent in English, which are Stage E, 63% of them achieve 9 to 4 in terms of really GSC, which is the highest achievement than any other group. I'm not going to talk about what does research tell about the role of school in closing achievement gap. We're good in blaming the school in everything. Education system in England has changed radically over the past few years. There is now a more autonomous school system where it moved toward what you call it school sector-led school improvement. Until recently, local authority was responsible for monitoring and challenging. I could really say until 2000 now, where I've been involved with. But now we have over 1,107 multi-academy trusts in England and 152 local authority, fragmented education system, and nothing is really coordinated. So difficult actually to run really school English education system. Education researcher and practitioner had debated the question what and how much school can mitigate the effect of socioeconomic indicator, context, and including language barriers, a neighborhood where people live. The research fund argue school cannot compensate for social disadvantage and remind policymakers to acknowledge the importance of relationship with social disadvantage and educational achievement. My own research, which I've recently done, Steve Strand, Salmon, and really this famous people who did school effectiveness research, school can only contribute between 8 to 15% improvement. This even confirm a school can make a difference, albeit with some small limit. Researchers have now continued to argue the factor influencing low attainment are beyond the school. And it's possible for them to overcome the problem of poverty and disadvantage, including language barrier. Ofsted has also acknowledged the same thing. The social factor beyond school gate as a community where people live can have determined impact on achievement. Overall research has shown the gap is not caused by school. There is now a consensus in the field, educational research that found 85% of the difference in terms of achievement happen beyond the school gate. So can you see the gap where a lot of national strategy is needed? There is therefore need a national, a local initiative beyond the school gate to take disadvantage of the community and raise achievement. This was a strategy which was followed by Labour government until 2010, which has actually reduced the gap in terms of really achievement. People are really interested. You should really read my research report on Black Caribbean, how we managed to really narrow gap from 29% between 2004, 2010 to 7%. It can be done with investment. The government needs to tackle poverty, to provide language support for parents and people to close the achievement gap and raising attainment of Portuguese people. This requires, I would say, extensive investment beyond the school gate. We cannot expect always the school to do everything. This is my favorite quotation. Not down to school everything and teacher alone to solve the problem of disadvantage in language barrier.
Feyisa, can I ask you to conclude in the next couple of minutes so we can?
Yes, I'm almost there.
Oh, great, fantastic.
I'm almost there. There are a number of Lambeth initiatives which have been really done before. You could really see here in my PowerPoint as the new initiative as SOMS Lambeth, which is going, and we are really aiming to really close the achievement gap by 2%. The conclusion is, from the evidence, is that Portuguese are often underachieving compared to many teen groups. However, there are also positive message from Lambeth and good improvement. Portuguese people in the authority who are fully fluent English achieve better than LA and national average. Portuguese in Lambeth do better than Portuguese nationally. The same is really show the evidence I have shown you. This needs to be really celebrated. A number of factors were identified: language barrier, poverty, and also inappropriate curriculum, which does not fit to really the Portuguese community. As a local authority tackling the factor affecting Portuguese at the moment through targeting evaluation, new initiative from Lambeth project. My recommendation is, I'm really finishing now, is the biggest obstacle to raise Portuguese achievement is the colorblind approach, which has put the group under disadvantage, a failure of national curriculum to adequately reflect the need of diverse multi-ethnic society in England. All government education reform white paper failed to explore the specific need of Portuguese and other new immigrants from European community. The challenge for national policy maker is to recognize and achieve any group of people in England education. Every child, regardless of their race, color, religion, can deserve an excellent education. What is even a concern is that for me is official stats fail to recognize Portuguese ethnic group at really national level. More importantly, also, I would really actually recommend also for Portuguese government, in earlier days, they really provide to Lambeth 35 advisory teachers in 1997. Very surprised that has been stopped. There are a lot of areas that can support really Lambeth school. I'm really concluding here and finishing here. I hope you find my presentation useful. I'm happy to take really any questions. I'm stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Feyisa. It's really great to hear from you firsthand, who have been doing so much research. We have a few questions already in the chat, and if anyone wants to kind of voice their questions, please raise your hand. We have about like 10 minutes for Q&A specifically for Feyisa. Before we get to we'll have more time in the end for discussion for everyone. But if you have any specific questions, please raise your hands. I have a lot of stuff happening on my chat, but Luísa and Sandra are helping me. So if I miss anything, they will be able to help me. But
Can I just comment one thing? If anybody from Channel Island, Guernsey,
everybody from what, sorry?
If anybody in the session is from Channel Island, Guernsey, Jersey, East Anglia, where a lot of Portuguese are, can you also please contributing to the discussion?
Okay, thank you. So there are a few questions here. I'm going to read them. What measurements, models, and taxonomies were employed, and was there semantic differentiation? I don't know if this question sounds too technical to me, maybe not clear for everyone. But Feyisa, if you get that, or if Nuno wants to clarify. There's another question from Annabella. Am I right in thinking that children are being all compared regardless of social group? And
can I just go one by one?
Yes, okay.
Let me answer the first about differentiation. The standard approach in monitoring English education system is there is differentiation at school level what they do. As far as local authorities concerned or national concerned, is collecting information related to the key stage 1, key stage 2, and key stage 3 GCSE, and look at the progress are made over a period of time. So, differentiation is really left to school. School is really a self-improving school. They do differentiate, monitor individual people performance, which we at local authority is too much to handle, and no local authority has capacity to do that sort of thing, and neither central government. So the second one, if you are muted.
Thanks. The second one was Annabella was asking, am I right in thinking that children are being all compared regardless of social group?
No, we do. We do by social group, by free school meals, by different group, by language group, and that sort of thing we monitor. And that's what the statistics are really demonstrate in terms of achievement. What we really don't do is traditional social class type of thing, which we used to be monitored in England, which you don't have data. The only data we have free school meals. Even in Lambeth, we monitor by people mobility. And how long they stayed in Lambeth school. So there are a number of group analysis we do to come to conclusion in terms of progress.
Okay, I think that connects to something that I was picking up on your presentation, which is kind of central here, I think, which is the idea of the Portuguese speaking group as an ethnic group, right? And with all ethnic groups, there is kind of there's intersections with other sort of divisions, right? So I think that's really kind of crucial to understand the results of the research.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying cannot be done differentiating Portuguese from the mainland, but it requires a huge amount of research money to do that sort of thing. I don't think neither will have a capacity or resource to do that sort of thing. You will not expect councils actually to fund that sort of research. So it's really a central government issue again. My understanding is probably around 4% are from mainland Portugal, England, in Lambeth, sorry.
Okay, Sandra, is there any question there that you want to pick up that I might have missed?
Yes, so we have a question from Guilherme Rosa, and his question is, let me scroll up. His question is, what kind of impact the withdrawal of SEND, special educational needs and disabilities, language support, has in the improvement of Portuguese speakers' performance in Lambeth?
I have not done any analysis by saying it will be very significant number, small number involved, where statistically it's very difficult to compare. The analysis we are limited at the moment is language, fluency, preschool meals analysis, people really mobility. You could do in many way analysis. They should be statistically really valid. Some of those analyses should be really left to really school to do it, not really local authority or central government. Are too detailed for us to do that sort of that level of analysis. I'm sure that's the sort of response you get from the DFE also in terms of the nature of data analysis. The DFE actually do not allow a group less than 10 to be grouped together and analyzed, make a lot of statistical errors, small number issue.
Thanks, Feyisa. We're running a bit behind on schedule. I think that there are actually more really interesting questions that I read here. But if I can ask people to, and we are going to sort of note them down as well, if in case people forget. But if you can hold on to them and bring them up afterwards, because as Feyisa just said, part of the analysis has to be done at the school level, and we happen to have people from schools with that like ground experience. So it would be great to move on and have some time as well to discuss that perspective. So thank you very much, Feyisa, and thanks for all the questions.
I hope it's useful. I will not be after 4 o'clock with you, so
also,
thank you.
Feyisa has to leave at 4 o'clock. So no, you have you raised your hand, like your proper hand, which I can see. Do you want to say something? But it has to be quick because otherwise we won't have time to.
Well, thank you very much to Feyisa, and thank you very much all of you who have provided such meeting. What I've got to say is that I've been on the ground for 55 years. I am a teacher, I teach, I'm still teaching, and my question was to Feyisa the taxonomies that were employed. We have got to remember lots of details in here, which we're going back to very basics, which is Maslow. But mainly, my question was, when it came to differentiation and semantics, we're talking about the language and what it was employed. And secondly, or primarily, basically, it's where the techniques employed. Are we talking about Likert? Are we talking about Thurston? Are we talking about Gutman? Are we talking about Rush? So these are the models, and the other model, which was very much followed by the Universidade de Lisboa, Lisbon University, which was done by someone who actually done quite a lot of investigation on this, and her name is Luísa Margarida da Cunha. So what I embrace very much what Feyisa said, but there is quite a lot of gaps in here. And as far as I'm concerned, going back when I was on the ground teaching in Lambeth, which I also glad to know to tell you, all of you, that the council at the time did very little in terms of the poverty, and is still doing not very much, because Portuguese people and other people around the borough get pushed, shoved from pillar to pillar. So I think there is quite a lot of content in here, and this is also another comment which I would like very much. At the time, it was Maria Estrela who was in charge of education, and then Gulbenkian Foundation has done very little to help at all, and Institute Camões now has done very little as far as I'm concerned over the 55 years. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you to actually hold on to that so we can discuss at the end, because you're raising a lot of questions for lots of people that are here.
Just two.
Sorry, there are lots of people that are here, and I'm not going to be able to give them a chance to respond now. So
that's fine.
Hold on to that to the end, and then we can all discuss more in the end. Is that okay?
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And it was good for you to clarify the the question, but I think that some of that more technical aspects of the study, I think maybe, I'm sure that Feyisa will be happy to discuss that
The
with
only
you.
thing I would really
Because
say,
no research is complete, right?
yeah, the only thing I would say, I'm interested in what work research. I want to make improvement at school level. I'm also interested to learn what others do. I'll be happy actually individually we talk to each other rather than, I mean, discussing more in detail on these issues here.
That's great. That's exactly why we organized this event. So I hope that you can continue this discussion after it. So without further ado, thanking again Feyisa and everyone for contributing to this discussion, I will move on to the Wyvil School leadership team. I'm not sure who is here from the team, but you will introduce yourselves. Oh, there you go. So I'll leave it to you. It's about 15, 20 minutes. Is that it for your presentation? If you can do it short, that would be great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting Wyvil this afternoon to speak at this event. By way of introduction, my name is Rachel Pereira de Silva, and I am Associate Head Teacher and Senko at Wyvil Primary School. I'm joined by my colleagues this afternoon, Cordelia Cooper, who is our Deputy Head Teacher, and Cordelia is going to be sharing our presentation on the slides. And also Cathal McAnuff. Cathal is one of our Key Stage 1 teachers and also our Key Stage 1 phase leader. Should also mention that we're showing a video and that features Salome Campos, who is one of our long-standing teachers from Wyvil, who's currently working in Portugal. So it's great to see her this afternoon at this event as well. So I'm going to hand over to Cathal now to talk us through the first slides.
Hello everyone. So the Wyvil family. Diversity is at the heart of our Wyvil family. We celebrate different cultures and backgrounds and pride ourselves on how we represent multiple ethnic backgrounds from across the world. We have families from as far as Australia to Venezuela, Europe and North America, to name a few. The next one. As we're located on South Lambeth Road, also known as Little Portugal, as you're all aware, we have a large proportion of children who have Portuguese as their first language. The majority of our Portuguese-speaking children were born in Portugal or Madeira, or have been born in London, but their families originate from Portugal and Madeira. Next one.
Thank you, Cathal. So we're not going to dwell too long on the context and the data because Feyisa has talked us through that really thoroughly, and we want to focus on the strands of development at Wyvil that support our Portuguese pupils. But as we know, our Portuguese-speaking pupils in Lambeth are highly disadvantaged. The level of fluency in speaking is of serious consideration, which is why language learning is at the heart of what we do at Wyvil. And again, as Feyisa has mentioned, this underachievement is perpetuated by a number of factors, which means it's not just what we do in school that supports our pupils, but also what we do within the local community. And family collaboration is something we'll be talking about a little bit later on. So the Wyvil picture, again, we know that we have been signposted to take part in this today, which is a real honour because our Portuguese pupils are broadly in line with the rest of our Wyvil pupils, but also perform significantly higher than Lambeth, both Portuguese and national pupils. So, where do we fit into this picture? We know that Portuguese-speaking pupils make up 7% of our school population. As with any ethnic group, we place great importance on overcoming not only a language barrier, but also sharing and celebrating in culture, history, identity, and language. I know this firsthand myself, coming from a bilingual background myself. And we have a rich history of being a beacon of success. I only joined the school in 2017, but Wyvil has been on my radar for much longer than that, for the great success it has for our Portuguese pupils. And I'm going to share with you a short video clip now that, as Rachel said, features Salome Campos. And this showcases, a little bit better than we can put into words, just what makes Wyvil and the teaching we provide for our pupils so effective. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, and I'm going to bring up another one. Okay.
Number 2 is the landing.
À primeira vista parece uma escola inglesa como muitas outras. As aulas são em inglês e os alunos vestem os tradicionais uniformes escolares. Mas esta escola é diferente. Está bem no centro da maior comunidade portuguesa de Londres e do Reino Unido. A professora é portuguesa e metade dos alunos são filhos de imigrantes portugueses. Muitos pouco ou nada falam de inglês, o que obriga a adotar diferentes formas de ensino.
Temos que ter sempre esse tipo, tanto para as crianças portuguesas como qualquer outra criança que chegue e que não fala inglês. Temos que ter sempre tudo muito visual, perceber a rotina do dia-a-dia a nível de fotografias, a nível de gestos, dar esse tal apoio. Muitas vezes outras crianças da mesma língua a grande maioria das vezes são elas que os ajudam e que estão ali a traduzir e olha, agora faz isto, agora faz aquilo, o que também os ajuda, por exemplo, no caso dos alunos portugueses eu noto, eles ficam orgulhosos de ter esse tipo de importância, de conseguirem, eu estou aqui, estou a fazer o meu trabalhinho, mas também tenho alguém que possa ajudar.
We have a range of children from those who are newly arrived to those children who have been born here but of Portuguese heritage. And it's very important that we meet the needs of that community. Most importantly is ensuring effective communication, and therefore having a staff which is able to speak the same language as the parents and many of the children on entry to the school is a vital part of that responsibility.
Dentro de cada sala tem sempre que haver alguém a falar português.
Sim, e se não for diretamente, sempre, diariamente naquela sala, está na sala ao lado, na porta ao lado. Por isso, se for preciso alguma coisa, por exemplo, temos várias crianças que entram em meio do ano e crianças vindas de Portugal que nunca estiveram na escola, por exemplo, ou se tiveram não falam inglês. Temos sempre a certeza que, primeiro, quando eles chegam à escola, são testados, são avaliados no nível do português, a nível de português de língua e de matemática, fazem um teste, e depois temos um grupo de apoio, que é dado pelo Daniel, um dos nossos auxiliares, que os tira uma vez por semana para devagarinho eles vão aprendendo o inglês, o básico, mas a nível de escola, como é que se chama o lápis, como é que se chama isto, para começarem a serem por eles mesmos, aprenderem e serem capazes de se desenrascarem no dia-a-dia da escola.
Maria do Céu trabalha na escola de Wyvil.
And I'm going to pause the video there because that was just a snapshot, and I'm going to return to the PowerPoint ready to hand back over to Rachel, who's going to talk us through what the support looks like at Wyvil, breaking it down into 3 key areas.
Thank you, Cordelia. Yes, as you saw there on the video, we've got various elements in terms of the support that we provide for our Portuguese pupils, but I think also to stress, what Feyisa was saying as well there, that it's about having an excellent education for all of our pupils and very much including our Portuguese pupils. So the first element there is the teaching and learning, and that has to be at the heart of what we do, is having excellent teaching and learning and combining that with our extracurricular offer. We also feel very strongly that it's essential that we celebrate Portuguese speaking and the Portuguese speaking identity as well at Wyvil, and Cathal will be talking a little bit about how we do that at us. And finally, what is so important is the family support and community collaboration that we engage in at us. So starting off with really that investment in teaching and learning and that focus on excellence in our teaching and learning, we do invest an awful lot in professional development at Wyvil. We are members of the Lambeth Teaching Schools Alliance, and that provides lots of opportunities for our teachers to develop in their careers. We have a number of teachers who have gone on to be specialist leaders in education, and our executive head teacher, who you saw there, Christopher Toy, in the video, who was speaking, is a national leader of education. So ensuring that our teaching is as good as it possibly can be and is consistent is very, very important. There's a diagram there that we've shared with our teachers in the past, and some research that came out in the 90s, really looking at the effects of good teaching and also the effects of teaching that's perhaps not so good, and the difference that it makes over years. So children, obviously, if they have consistently good teaching, they're going to make so much more progress than if teaching is less consistent. So we are very aware of that, and we definitely ensure that the programs of support we give our teachers really contribute to the learning for all of our pupils. I think that very much at the heart of our teaching and learning offer is the initiatives that we provide for literacy. We have a whole school focus on phonics to start off with, and our children are put into groups. Our performance of our pupils in the phonics screening check is consistently above Lambeth and national averages, and that's been the case for many years. As Feyisa emphasised in his presentation, it's so important that our pupils gain fluency in English as quickly as they can, and helping them to read and write, of course, is central to that. So we very much focus on securing that base for literacy going forward. We use a whole book approach. We try to foster a love of reading in our pupils, and that can be really done by using fantastic books, using the whole book, so children really get engaged, and that's something that children very much enjoy. And we also provide interventions for the pupils who need them. So pupils who may be struggling to acquire basic literacy skills, they will be supported in interventions that identify that their progress is tracked, etc. And we want to involve the parents in this as much as possible. So we have reading cafes, we have other events going on. Parents pre-COVID, of course, are invited into the school to read with the children, to hear about what they're doing in their literacy lessons, and that's been really important and a good way of getting parents involved. Leading on from that, we have a sort of saying at Wyvil, if you like, every lesson is a language lesson. So we are really focusing on the acquisition of language throughout our curriculum. We have discrete, as was mentioned in the video, discrete sessions for pupils who are very new to English, and that's important, but it can't just be that. It has to be throughout all of the learning that they do, this emphasis on acquiring language, using language correctly. So obviously that takes place in literacy, but also in other areas such as numeracy. It ensures that the pupils have access to the curriculum, they're able to really engage with the learning and make progress. And it's also, of course, to social and emotional development, so that pupils can interact confidently together and positively. So we ensure that that takes place. So when children are struggling, we may need to do speech and language interventions. We actually assess pupils in Portuguese to see if there is an issue in the home language. We don't just rely on assessments sort of using the English language. And that enables us to really tailor our intervention so that we know what the issues are and we can support the pupils. We have at Wyvil 2 resource bases for special needs. One is the Language Centre resource base, and another is the Autism resource base. And of course, with that comes a wealth of expertise among the teams that work in those two centres, and we are able to draw upon that expertise to support pupils who may be showing difficulties in other areas, even though they're not part of the actual language centre or space. We have various curriculum initiatives such as Philosophy for Children, which is a strength of the school, and that enables children to really share ideas. It's really focusing on how we express ourselves, how children are able to express their thinking about various different topics. It's a great way of showcasing actual just speaking and expressing yourself. And finally, we encourage bilingualism. We encourage parents to speak Portuguese to their children at home. We celebrate that, and that's something that Cathal's going to talk to us a little bit more on in a moment. With that celebration of bilingualism, we have events that we're able to engage the pupils in, which is on the next slide. There are some pictures there of our pupils taking part in the Native Scientist Project at King's College Hospital, and that was with Portuguese speaking professionals. It was a taste of work experience, hopefully to come, and some mentoring opportunities. So we take those opportunities as and when we find them. So to really talk more about celebrating Portuguese speaking and the identity at Wyvil, I'm going to hand over to Cathal.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So just along with receiving a broad and balanced curriculum at Wyvil, we provide an extensive provision for our Portuguese speaking students so that they can continue and extend their Portuguese learning, which obviously contributes to the summative learning to their national exams at the end of year 6 in Portugal. This picture was taken just in September this year, and it's actually really nice that even in the midst of a pandemic we can still provide such provisions. If you go to the next slide. So just here are some tweets from our Wyvil Twitter page, how we promote and raise awareness of our Portuguese learning. The children can avail from the provision from the end of Key Stage 1. So from around year 2 upwards, they can access after school clubs, which are age appropriate and conform to the learning and guidance with the national exams in Portugal. The team at Wyvil is quite extensive, but I'm just going to name drop Cristina and Andre as they provide such an invaluable experience and learning opportunities, so that the children have the best chance to meet the age-related expectations in their Portuguese learning. Over this past few years, the children have done very well in their national exams. And the next page. And here we just have some examples of how we use our social media with the local community to celebrate the Portuguese identity. We encourage the local community to use and avail of our open spaces. We look forward to similar events post-COVID, as it is an opportunity for us to get involved in the local community and for them to feel part of the Wyvil family. Thank you. Yeah. And the next one.
Are you concluding?
Yes, and then Cordelia, go to the next slide.
Cordelia.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to just finish off by talking about the importance of family support and community collaboration. As Feyisa said earlier on, it's not just about what happens in schools, but also what happens beyond. And Wyvil is very much a beacon within Little Portugal, Lambeth and beyond. We maintain really strong links with as many different community groups and local agencies as we can. I'm going to name drop the Lambeth Portuguese Wellbeing Partnership. Particularly during lockdown and during COVID, they were invaluable in supporting us to support our local families. We have a dedicated page on our website. We realised during lockdown that our children were proudly showing their parents and families all of the resources on our website. So we wanted to make sure that that was accessible to as many different groups as possible. You're very welcome to have a look at this at your own leisure. Using the LPWP, the Lambeth Portuguese Wellbeing Partnership, we were able to signpost to services in the local community that might be able to support families with food, medication, anyone who is isolating. There's a wealth of information out there that we had at our fingertips, and we did everything we could through social media, through the website, to make sure that we were sharing it with those who needed it. Finally, we recognise the need to support our families with learning, but we realised very, very quickly that for many of our families, they felt it challenging and a barrier to support their children with the learning in English. So our Portuguese teachers, as Cathal has mentioned, Cristina and Andre, were quick off the mark to create their own Portuguese learning Padlets, which took off amazingly well. So here are some examples of a Padlet, which is a remote learning platform that our younger children were able to access, both with language and culture. And here is an example of one for our older children. The children loved it, the parents loved it, and it really showcased how our staff go above and beyond to support our families. Again, these are all available on the website, so do have a little look, do peruse, they're there for everyone to use. So that brings us on really to the last slide, and which Rachel will summarise for us.
Thank you, Cordelia and Cathal. So just to conclude, really, thinking about the future and what's next for Wyvil, we continue to strive for the best outcomes for all of our pupils, including our Portuguese pupils. We're part of the initiative, the Somos Lambeth working group, and that's allowing us to share our practice with others and support others in raising the achievement and profile of our Portuguese speaking students across Lambeth. And we're really pleased to be part of that. We aim to work with Lambeth. We want to help improve Portuguese speaking people's attainment. We have the target of 2% at every key stage each year for 2 years. We also want to continue to harness the power of the Portuguese identity and the identity of our Portuguese speaking pupils. And we really look forward to being part of the What It Means to be Portuguese Speaking in Lambeth project that we have planned for next year. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really great. Thanks for preparing this presentation for us. I think it's great as well to look at it in conjunction to the research that was presented before in terms of progress, right? Because we were talked about progress and how much sort of these initiatives kind of play a part in this progress that was monitored by the research. We have some great questions going on, so I don't want to spend any more time and on the chat, and I'm sure you have lots of interventions and people that want to speak. So I think we'll move on to the next speaker, and if you please kind of keep putting your questions in the chat or hold them for the conversation afterwards, that would be great. I think it was also great to hear about what's happening with the lockdown and COVID, because it's something that's been worrying us a lot, right? And hearing more about parents and hearing about that parent side, which is the one that actually most interests us, and also about the sort of the value of multilingual abilities, even from the part of teachers, right? It's a bit counterintuitive for some people that, you know, if children don't speak English, then they should just be like kind of not speaking any Portuguese and be put in an environment where they don't speak any Portuguese. Some people think that, but it's the opposite actually, right? The more you kind of celebrate bilingual skills, the more kind of children apparently do, the better they do at school. So, right, without no further ado, I'll move on to our next speaker, who is Luísa Ribeiro, who is a teacher with a lot of experience in working in London, working with ethnic minorities, working with different teams, working as modern foreign languages and English as an additional language, but also working as a consultant and working in the above mentioned project Somos Lambeth, organized by the Lambeth School Partnership. And over to you, Luísa.
Hello, good afternoon to all of you. Boa tarde a todos. Thank you so much for inviting me. I would like to say that everything that Feyisa said, it's exactly what I think about Portuguese speakers in Lambeth. It's when I worked in Lambeth, it was always about Portuguese speakers, not about Portuguese from Portugal, as so. So the issues that we faced. So I've started working for the Lambeth Council in 2006. At the time, the Portuguese speakers were the lowest achievers in Lambeth. We didn't know the reasons why. We set up a group of projects in schools according to the needs and the impact, and they were from a different range. We work with schools quite deeply, mainly with head teachers who are keen on raising the achievement of Portuguese speakers, and therefore we develop a very strong Portuguese education network with all schools in Lambeth who had a strong interest in raising the achievement of Portuguese speakers. We worked at the time with parents, having meetings with parents in schools, explaining the educational system, explaining how they could help the children at home, how important it was to keep speaking Portuguese at home and not swapping it for a broken English. We also had Portuguese being taught in schools for teachers and for parents and for children, sorry. We also had Portuguese mentors in schools. We created a section in the South Lambeth Library and Clapham Common Library with Portuguese books, which was supported by Portuguese banks. We also had Portuguese conferences, which ran until 2013, whereby we invited different ambassadors who spoke Portuguese, Portuguese-speaking embassies based in London, but we also invited researchers, schools all across London and outside, coming to share their experience on how develop strategies and new projects in school to raise the attainment of Portuguese speakers. We created awards for Portuguese speakers, not only achievement, but also citizenship. So we asked schools to look at the children that they had speaking Portuguese at school and look at the progress they made, not if they were the highest achievers, and nominate 2 students, one for citizenship and another one for achievement. We developed international school links, very strong international school links with schools in Portugal and Brazil. And we also created a project called Sing Portuguese, whereby the students and parents were learning Portuguese songs from their childhood or from when they were young, and they were performing across Lambeth on the 10th of June to the wide public. We had a very strong intake on this project, and schools were very, very supportive of all of them. And as Feyisa mentioned, in 2010, the teams that were supporting ethnic minorities were disappeared. Therefore, the work had to come to an end in 2010. And after that, I work as an independent consultant with the Portuguese speaking community alongside the other languages as mother foreign languages. I would say, from my experience working with all schools in Lambeth, outside of Lambeth, across London, that I think that the most important things that we have to highlight is to have a strong leadership in schools of teachers who are keen on working with minorities, who are inclusive, who are proud of their students, who like to involve also the governing bodies in projects to involve the speakers from other minorities that they have in school. Also, something very important is that schools employ members of staff that come from a Portuguese speaking background, not only in class, but also in reception, so they could be the face of the school and allow and invite Portuguese families into the school. Another point that I would like to highlight was also to create an inclusive curriculum whereby we can see the influence of Portuguese language, culture and history in the world. And that makes children, students and their families to feel proud of who they are and raise their confidence in learning. Another aspect, I would say that the celebration of the cultural diversity in schools and across the borough is really important. So they see that they are part of two worlds, and that the children and the parents are more important because of that, and that gives them an advantage in their future careers and how employable they are because they speak two languages fluently and they're able to work across the world because of that kind of career. And also I feel that have always and listen always to the parents and the local community is really important, as well as listen to the students. Having assemblies whereby we ask students to share their views on the learning that they are doing at school, but also on the life they live at home, and use that information to change strategies in schools or to change our approach towards the families and towards the children. And finally, as mentioned, I hope I'm not going beyond my time. I'm trying to keep a track on the
You are doing great, Luísa. We have to shorten a bit because we need to
yeah, I know.
comments,
So
but I think you're doing great.
So finally, I just want to say that I am the consultant employed by the Lambeth School Partnership for the project Somos Lambeth that Wyvil mentioned and also Feyisa mentioned. And this project has just started. We did the launch. We're now having the schools involved. The selection of the schools was based on the number of Portuguese speakers that they have. And being a consultant for Somos Lambeth, we are putting together a set of projects to engage again the Portuguese speaking families and to try to raise the attainment of Portuguese speakers. And we are just starting because COVID, as you know, delayed everything that we had planned for the last academic year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Luísa. It was great also to have your kind of like experience, which gives a bit of a historical perspective of this of the progress that happened in the last decades. Thank you very much, Luísa. Finally, our last speaker is a perspective that we haven't heard before yet, which is the perspective of the students, of the pupils themselves. So we're very glad to have here Diogo Costa, who was a student, was a pupil at Lambeth, and became youth mayor of Lambeth, and his higher achievement was to become part of a member of Migrantes Unidos, which he is now. So over to you, Diogo, just for a final intervention before.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and speak quite quickly, do my short intervention here. I'd like to start off with a bit of background. My parents are Portuguese. They came from a small town in Portugal in 1996, migrated here to the UK, and in fact, the first residency in the UK was in Little Portugal. I've spent all my life in Lambeth. I studied in Stockwell Primary School and Lambeth Academy. They're the top 5 in the number of Portuguese-speaking pupils. I was elected youth mayor, as Francisco mentioned, and became politically active in British politics and Portuguese politics during my time in sixth form. I'm currently now finishing off my bachelor's in science, doing my dissertation, and I work as part-time as software engineer in the finance industry in the City of London. Looking back at my time in primary school education, I know my parents were always working, countless number of hours. My mother always reminds me that sometimes she had to bring me to her workplace. So I'll be waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning, going to the bus stop, catching the bus in the freezing British cold weather. And it wasn't a pleasant experience, but she had no one else that she could rely on. So, and I think that's quite similar to a lot of also other Portuguese children. Their parents are always working. My mother and my father, they're both low skilled. They didn't really have many opportunities in Portugal. And since they were born under a dictatorship and were born in poverty from the get-go. during my time in Stockwell Primary, I remember that there was quite a few Portuguese-speaking children, yes, and one observation I made was that typically Portuguese girls tended to hang around with Portuguese-speaking girls, while the boys tended to mix in more with different students, especially Bain, since that's given the demographics of Lambeth and Lambeth schools. I remember English being quite a difficult subject for myself. My parents did not know English; they couldn't read or write English, so I couldn't really ask for any help to do my homework. In fact, my parents actually enrolled me in homework club to help me with my homework. I had to attend booster classes for both in the morning and after school for English. I'm having to translate letters for my parents. I'm having to speak to authorities for them. I'm having to go to the GPs with them to translate for them, and also for teachers as well. Stockwell, I was lucky enough to also have Portuguese lessons, which was very valuable. At the time, I did not really like attending Portuguese lessons. I've got some former Portuguese teachers over here. I don't know if I was a good student or not. I cannot remember. But I was not a great fan of Portuguese lessons, mostly because I didn't see any point in learning Portuguese, and I didn't like spending my after school having to do extra work, especially when it was Friday after school. Oh my God. Also, I know a lot of the time I had to travel back home by myself during the dark, since my parents were working. So, and although I'm very grateful for the Portuguese lessons, it's helped me to communicate in Portuguese. It's given me it strengthened my link with Portugal, my parents' homeland, despite not being born or raised there. Moving on to my secondary education, one thing I do notice is that Portuguese students tended to perform very well in MFL subjects. So when they were doing Spanish, French, German, Chinese, they seem to perform better. And I think that's due to the bilingual nature. For me, mathematics and ICT and computer science were always my superior subjects, maybe because it's more logical based. I don't really have to rely on many English skills. And now I'm doing a degree in computer science. So. But I'm going to wrap it up over here. That's just a couple of my experiences in the British education system in Lambeth. Thank you for listening, and I hand it back over to the chair.
Thank you so much, Diogo. That was really great. I think that everyone will agree that it was really helpful to have that perspective, and because it's the experience that it's really the central here, the experience of the pupil, that is the Portuguese child that is in school. So it's time now for questions, interventions, very short comments, and we will have time. There's people here we really want to hear from, people that were mentioned. There's people here from the Lambeth Wellbeing Partnership that was referred to a couple of times. There's people here from the council, from the Somos Lambeth, from Instituto Camões, but we want to hear from anyone who would like to ask any questions or make any comments at this point. We can start perhaps by reading some of the questions that have been raised here. There were a couple of questions. Maybe we can start with some questions that were kind of raised here for the schools about where are they? There was about the involvement of the reading cafe. They were kind of all right. Oh no, I think that Cordelia was answering, but she was answering for me.
I recopied it into everyone. Yes. Yeah, so.
Okay. All right. Okay. So there were questions about the cafe and about the involvement of the communities. I think that would be interesting to know a little bit more about. Maybe in light of what Luísa said about the fact that at the start, the situation was not very good, and then it evolved due to some initiatives. What was it that worked and how it was impacted? right? And in view of Diogo's also experience, I think to know a little bit more how those kind of initiatives that involved communities and parents, how did they kind of work? How you think they impacted the improvement of children?
I guess someone, I think, asked earlier on sort of how do you change things at a school level? And I guess as with any school change, it takes time. You know, our first couple of reading cafes perhaps weren't as well attended as we might like, but you have to keep persevering and keep on going, and word will spread on the street, as it were. So making it really engaging and fun for the children first and foremost, that they get to read with their parent in English, Portuguese, or any other language for that matter. And then from that, you begin to sort of drop into that, the strategies, modeling of resources. Particularly, we found parents found questioning really helpful, you know, hearing a child read, but actually the questions that you're asking a child either in English or Portuguese or any home language. And we found it grew organically from there. And it's a shame, obviously, COVID happened when it did, because having only really launched it in the last year or so, we've had a bit of a break from it. But I think it's working with your community, working with your parents, and allowing systems like that to grow and develop and meet the needs of your community. But it was responded to really, really well.
Thank you. It was also good. It would also be good to know from all of you that are teachers at the moment, how did children come back from the first lockdown, especially like to the beginning of this new year, especially those children that are in homes where parents don't speak English and are more disconnected with school as other Portuguese-speaking children. But I'll hand over to Salome and then Emil, who raised their hands to make some short interventions or questions. Salome?
Hi, boa tarde. Hi, everyone. Just to say hi to my Wyvil family. I miss you, really miss you. Obviously, I was working at Wyvil for 16 years. I also had the pleasure to work with Luísa Ribeiro in many of the projects that we had to try to involve the community. And I do think our main struggle was to catch the parents, literally. That was our main struggle. And thinking back about our first few reading cafes, I remember having a plate of pastéis de nata outside, calling the parents, come in, we have natas, come in. Because obviously, and as Alcino just mentioned on the messages, the parents still, and unfortunately, Portuguese parents, obviously not all of them, obviously this is just, you know, the main idea is that, you know, the social life is the first priority. So staying at school, trying to help their children is a big issue, is a big thing that needs to be changed. The way of thinking needs to be changed, I think, with the parents in our community. But definitely having Portuguese staff in school helping to translate parents' evening, that was a big struggle. And at Wyvil we have that, like, really, it's a really strong feature. If they need translators, we will always be there, even to translate reports if they ask in advance. All the school reports will be translated. Letters, important letters that needs to go home, they are translated. So I think the main priority of every school that has any kind of, obviously, other children that speak other languages, is to try and catch the families and the parents. And I was lucky enough to have that experience at Wyvil. And as I could see, it's just going even better and better. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that and thank you for today.
Thanks, Salome, for your testimony. Linda? Linda, did you want to? ML? Oh, no, sorry, it's ML. I see. Did you have a hand up, ML? Sorry.
Oh yes. Yes, I had a question. Thank you so much, Cordelia, answering some of the questions I have had. The other thing I wonder, like, how you came about this idea of like changing things at the school level. There used to be a problem, and then you have to just like make some changes at the curriculum, at like the way like employing by like Portuguese speaking teachers. and really making changes to meet the needs of the children. I mean, thank you very much. It was amazing presentation and inspiring case study, to be honest. Yeah, I just want to like kind of share more of your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda has a hand up. I don't know if you want to speak.
Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello. Yes, I'm head of a small primary school very close to Wyvil, and I understand the importance. We've got a growing Portuguese community in our school, and a lot of what Wyvil mentioned we do as well. So we recognise the importance of promoting and engaging and making sure that we're giving out positive messages to our community. How do you sustain it? I haven't heard anything from secondary school. How do you sustain it and maintain it in the secondary school? Where I think it's a little bit more easier to engage the parents at primary level and the children. What about secondary? I'd like to hear from secondary schools.
Thank you, Linda. I think that's a great question. Does anyone want to answer? Is anyone able to give an account of what happens in secondary school?
I can speak from my experience of Portuguese students who arrive from Portugal into secondary education. In my school, at least, they were put into English classes straight away to catch them up. And in my school, at least, that's been successful. And Portuguese students who arrived to the UK with no fluency in English were able to quickly pick it up and have gone on to go to university and such.
I can, is it okay? Can you hear me? I can also say that there is an EAL specialist in the school. So they have an assessment.
Can you say that again? It broke up.
Okay, so there is always an EAL specialist in the school. So a child, when they come in, they are assessed for their language level, and then they have support on regular basis to improve their English. During the time that I was working on the project, we had also other events like the awards and also the mentoring, which is very important. Lillian Bayliss is still doing the mentoring project for students, so raising their expectations towards. So every term there is an event with mentors invited from other parts of life which come to the school and speak to the children about their career paths and how they can succeed going through some challenges that they themselves faced. Part of the project of Sums Lambeth is going to continue to have those inspirational events, which will start next year, so in 2021. Oh, let me also tell you something that we need to say. When we started in 2006, the Portuguese speakers were the lowest achievers. In 2010, when we finished, we were the highest achievers in Lambeth. So this only shows that a global approach to support Portuguese speakers in schools with families, school and students has got a positive result.
Just, if I can just speak on that, I left primary in 2010. So maybe I benefited.
Yes.
Thank you. Nuno?
Gostava de contribuir.
Can you please speak in English?
Oh, sorry. I would like to contribute with what my colleagues are saying. Going back to 2006, 7 and 8, I was teaching at Battersea Technical College, and the Portuguese at the time were high achievers. What I would like to put today, it's a question for the Lambeth Council and Brixton and the councillors who are overseeing quite a lot of money given to schools, etc. They have let it go to astray because the Portuguese will always achieve the same way as the English, or even better, not better. It's better for better and better for better. So I would like someone from the council to actually raise the issue obviously there are more than one issue, as we know, the poverty, etc., but I don't want to face it now. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Nuno. We actually have. That's maybe a good time to bring in Councillor Edward Davie, because he wanted. I mean, he can sort of maybe talk very briefly about this program that has been referred. I think some was Lambeth and maybe other programs that the council is doing. He's the cabinet member for children and young people. Yeah, if that's right. And if you want to kind of share just quickly any.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really helpful. It's been a fantastic afternoon. I thank Migrantes Unidos for organising it and shining a light on this very important issue. And it's been really great to hear from various speakers, especially Diogo, our former youth mayor, and especially it's always good to hear the direct experience of people who've actually been through our schooling system. And I would say, you know, in Lambeth Council, we're absolutely committed to equalities. That's our main word. We want everyone and every child to achieve their full potential, to do as well as they're capable of doing. And we have a wonderful, diverse community in Lambeth. And as we've heard from others, that includes 30,000 odd Portuguese-speaking people from all over the Lusophone world, not just mainland Portugal, but Madeira, Angola, Brazil, and many other parts of the world. So it's a very rich community. And someone's put in the chat something that we haven't talked about much, which is the Afro Portuguese kind of connection. And there's a lot of intersectionality. So another former youth mayor here, Diogo, on the end is Jacqueline Gomez Neves, who helped me with this report that was about Black Lambeth residents and trying to improve their health, which includes obviously people of, like herself, of Angolan extraction. So there is intersectionality, and we have to be nuanced about the way that we deal with that, whether that's our Black community, and within that, that's Black Caribbeans and Black Portuguese African people and all kinds of different communities within it. And we have to respond appropriately and work with everybody to support their different needs. But I would say, you know, the framing of the conference has been why do Portuguese children underachieve in Lambeth? And one thing I would say is that 95% plus of Lambeth schools are rated good or outstanding by Ofsted inspectors, that our exam results are in the top 10% of the whole country. And so all children of all backgrounds on average do better in Lambeth than they do anywhere else in the country. And the reason why we even know that we have a particular issue with Portuguese speaking children is because Lambeth is the only local authority in the country that actually measures it, like Feyisa was saying. And so we're able to identify where there are gaps, where people aren't perhaps achieving as well as we would hope and as in comparison with other ethnic groups. So that's important to say, that we have great schools, like we've heard from Wyvil, and we want to learn from Wyvil and others and work with the community to make sure best practice is in all of our schools and that everyone has a really great experience. And that's what the Somos program is about. And it builds on a program that we have called Raising the Game, that was about closing the gap between our Black Caribbean children. And that's been really successful in the few years that we've had that. And it's reduced exclusions from school of that population by 75%, and it's closed the attainment gap in just 2 years by 10%. So it's worked with Black Caribbean children. I'm sure it will work similarly with Portuguese speaking children. So the last thing I would say is, a couple of people have said it's not just school, but the wider community. And Nuno has been quite critical of us, fair enough. That's why we're here, is to take that challenge. And he talked about poverty. And for me, poverty is the #1 driver of poor outcomes. I was privileged enough to do a public health master's at King's College London. And what I learned was that people get ill much more because of poverty than any other cause. And it's the same with educational attainment. And so Lambeth Council is absolutely committed to reducing poverty as another one of our #1 aims alongside equality. So we're a London Living Wage accredited authority. We have been since 2012. We persuaded our biggest employers in the borough, guys at St Thomas's NHS Trust and South London and the Maudsley NHS Trust, to become London Living Wage employers themselves. We're having a discussion at the moment about reducing council tax even further for our poorest residents. And we're not quite there yet. I don't want to bounce Jack into a decision quite yet, but we want to do much more to lift more of our residents out of poverty, because we know that's the one single thing that we can do that will improve educational and health outcomes. We're building 1,000 council rent homes. We've created more businesses and more jobs than any other London borough, and we're determined to give people the tools they need to fulfill their potential, rather than patronise them and say you can't achieve just because you're poor. We want to give them the tools to work their way to greater achievement. So we're really proud of what we're doing. We take criticism and we want to learn, and that's what Somos is about. And I would really like to be able to come back maybe in a year or whenever's appropriate and talk to you about the success that we've had with Somos, I hope, and with the other programs that we have to talk, look at the wider context of the community and how we involve the community more. And my last point is to appeal to people from the Portuguese speaking community to get involved with Somos. We'd love to hear from people who have inspirational stories. I know Diogo is already involved with it, but we'd love people to come in and talk to us, talk to our Portuguese speaking children about the success they've had in academia or sport or business or whatever it is. So I'll leave it at that, but I've really enjoyed this afternoon, and I've really appreciated hearing from other people's point of view.
Thanks very much, Ed. It's great. And I'd just like to kind of underline, obviously, that we are not here sort of promoting any of the council's initiatives, or we don't have any party kind of association with it. But we are interested to hearing from everyone, and we're really grateful that the council kind of is collaborating with us. Our interest is to reach the community, is to make this problem more visible. That's because we encountered it and we didn't know what to do with it at first, and now we're kind of having more, we know more about it than we did before. And I hope this kind of is also an opportunity for people to continue conversations and continue sort of, getting involved and with initiatives, whether it's Somos Lambeth or others. I don't know if anyone is kind of out. There's lots of interesting comments in the chat. There's lots of interesting people here that I would like to hear from, but we're approaching 4:30, and I think we can stay a little bit longer, but I would like I'd like to hear from Álvaro as well, which is one of the people that actually is the person that sort of moved this initiative. It's from Migrantes Unidos, and I kind of like to hear from him if he wants to participate now and say some words about his thoughts, and also kind of maybe invite people to collaborate in future with us in future initiatives. I don't see any hands up, so I think we could move. Álvaro, do you want to come in now?
Yep, fine. I'll be happy to say a few words. Can you all hear me all right? Is it okay? Yeah, okay. I just thought I'd share with you a little bit how I came to this problem and the effect it had on me. I came to the UK in 1958, and I've been living in Lambeth for 40 years. To join a family of refugees from the Salazar regime. I arrived and I went to school. I got a scholarship. In those days, if you got a university place, you automatically got a scholarship. So within 2 years of arrival in this country, I got a scholarship, did my university, etc. And I was 15 when I arrived. I became a dual national as a result. I did all my career, became a university lecturer, and had Portuguese friends, but was mostly integrated in British life. All that time, it never bothered me at what my nationality was. It didn't bother me. It was me. I was both Portuguese and British to be quite honest with you, when Portugal played England, I had difficulty in deciding which side to operate, to support. Until this went on, until 2016 and the Brexit referendum. And in the aftermath of the Brexit referendum, I suddenly felt a huge rise in the xenophobia in this country. And suddenly I felt the need to solidarize myself with the Portuguese community that I'd lost contact with. And so I started looking for means of contacting the community. Although I'd lived in Lambeth for 40 years, I didn't even know that there was a Portuguese community center. I knew that there was a large community and went to restaurants occasionally, but didn't know anything about the life. And then I started looking around to find out a bit about the community. And one of the first things I came across was Feyisa Demie's research paper of 2008 about this problem. And it hit me. I felt really hurt. And I started thinking about why did I feel so hurt? And now I would like to use a metaphor. I think it was probably Brexit that kind of brought back my Portuguese identity. And those of you who follow football might feel that if Portugal were bottom of the League of Nations and below everything, we would feel our national pride hurt. And somehow, coming across this problem, I felt hurt. It hurt me in my newly rediscovered Portuguese identity. So I felt the need to do something about it, to find out more, etc. And those of you who know me know that for the last 2 years, I've been asking, finding out, etc. And the thing that is important to me is the fact that whilst if Portugal is bottom of the European League of Nations, there's little that we can do about it. I think the footballing ability of most of us is not sufficient to improve the position of Portugal. But Feyisa's research told me that the community can make quite a lot of difference, and everything that has been said today is reinforced that. So I'm very much hoping that this event will mobilize a greater group of people than the ones that have been doing fantastic work. And I've been really inspired by the presentations and Wyvil School's approach, fantastic. And I think we together can do more to spread that message elsewhere, together with some Lambeth. So I would appeal out of the audience here for volunteers to carry on working on this together as a group. If you could indicate, Migrantes Unidos are committed to carry on working so that we can reach the Portuguese parents, help them in any way we can. And if possible, my aim would be to ask the question, could we organize associations of Portuguese parents for mutual aid? I think the issue of mutual aid is very important. So I would like to finish by appealing to people here to volunteer for us to keep talking together, to form a group, to work with some Lambeth, the council and the schools to try and continue to improve the situation.
Thank you very much, Álvaro. That was great. I'd like to say as well, going back to Feyisa's introduction, that we kind of need to get away from this idea of a competition which is put in our heads by this market economy of competition, right? And sort of I understand your analogy with football, and I think that many people react the same way maybe I did as well when you first hear about this problem. But I think the discussion here today shows that that's not about that. It's about kind of actually, thinking about it in different ways, more collaborative and positive ways. So what I would ask people is, following on from Alvaro's appeal, is if you can write in the chat whether you would be able to, whether you be kind of interested in kind of, you know, continuing this conversation and volunteering to form a group that could kind of move this issue forward. Please write it on the chat, write your email or write any contact. And I would like also to say that we will be contacting you after, we'll send an email to everyone after the event. We're not going to keep emails from people, but we'll send just an email thanking you for the participation and asking you to volunteer to, if you want to be kind of informed about future events from Migrantes Unidos. This is just one of the things that we're interested in. We have a group working on this topic. We have groups working on other aspects of life of migrants, especially in the UK. Now with people that moved back to Portugal, they are here as well. I think that Sandra is in Portugal. Other people are in Portugal, but we are sort of, you know, migrants are by definition mobile. So we're trying to, as with this valuation of bilinguality, we try to kind of make the most out of this sort of the fact that we have kind of one foot in each place. So please write down your contact here if you want to be contacted for future work. And thank you very much for your participation. It's been really great, and I hope to see you in future events. Thank you very much.